bad.
What's up? Another episode of Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Ricardo Varendas, also known as Rick Varendas. And today we have a great SwapCast for you. Two of my friends. Throughout this whole journey, I've made some awesome friends, and two of them are on with me today. We do this occasionally. James Corbett from the Corbett Report, Sam Tripoli from Tinfoil Hat Podcast. We come together, we share our information, have a casual conversation about what's going on in the news, some historical stuff, and kind of just share our perspectives. And it always makes for a really fun and interesting conversation. We've done a couple of these, so go into archives, check those out. And also, obviously, check out the Tinfoil Hat Podcast. Check out James's work on CorbettReport.com. He just did a recent documentary on big data and Silicon Valley, and they're linked to like the CIA and government and all that stuff. So really interesting stuff. Two of my favorite people to talk to, so it's fun to kind of get them together every couple months and have these conversations. Support them. They have Patreon page. Well, Sam has a Patreon page. James, you can support directly from his website. And also, I have a Patreon page. If you like the music that you hear in this podcast, you can support the show by purchasing that music anywhere you can get digital downloads. My music project is called Theory 6. The song you hear at the beginning of the show is called The Ripple Effect. So you can get that anywhere, and that all that money goes to supporting the show. Or I also have a Patreon page. If you support us on Patreon, I let you know when shows are scheduled, when I have upcoming shows. The second I have a conversation with a guest and I have something scheduled, I update you, so you kind of get some behind-the-scenes information, which is fun. But most importantly, just share these conversations. I think they're super important. And James is awesome because I was having some technical difficulties with my mixer and Pro Tools and all this stuff, and he recorded the show for me. So that's the cool thing about having somebody as professional as James on the show and just ready to, his software is ready to record the second I'm like, hey, can you record this for me? He's like, yeah, I'm recording it right now. So it was awesome. And he also had his buddy Brock, who helps him with the video editing and all that stuff and his graphics, do the video for us. So if you go on my YouTube channel, RV Theory 6, you can actually see the three of us have the conversation. So unfortunately, the quality's not great on my end because I was having issues with Pro Tools, and Skype could only find my webcam mic, so the quality isn't great, but hopefully it's tolerable and it's good enough. So enjoy the show, guys, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.
Yeah, I'm having like all these issues with Pro Tools. It's like amazing how like you just use a program completely no problem, and then next thing you know, you start up assuming you're gonna have no issues, and literally it had an update. Then it wouldn't find like any of my files, and all of a sudden now it's not reading my mixer. I'll figure it out afterwards. But yeah,
I'm telling you, dude, they're messing with people's stuff, dude. I'm telling you, I did an interview the other day, and we were just going big on this Epstein thing, and then just out of nowhere, it just like did a bad connection on the phone, and I'm like, maybe we said a word, I don't know, but I mean, I think they're panicking because, this election's coming up, and if they go full censorship, it destroys the facade that they need to have everybody think this is a democracy and freedom of speech. So they have to do weird little things like, target certain people and just mess with their technology, man, mess with their phone. I don't know. It just seems kind of weird that I was just having this conversation and boom, all of a sudden it's like bad connection. And just when we were talking about certain things, I could be wrong.
Well, the thing is that, and this kind of goes into what James's recent short documentary about Silicon Valley, it kind of goes into like, is there something deeper going on? Because I think a lot of times we look at it and we're just like, okay, it's just a business practice. It's all about just making more money. Like that's the root cause. That's the influence of everything. It's like, oh, they're censoring things because of the marketers and it's controversial issues and it's that simple. And I think in some cases that is a huge influence, is the fact that, like, okay, maybe if you're a marketer, you don't want to add on a, maybe a anti-vaccine documentary or podcast or whatever. But I think what James showed was that there's a lot more to the story, that there's links with the CIA, there's links with all these people, and there's something much deeper going on than simply, oh, we're just trying to make maximum money, and that's why we're trying to collect all this data, and that's why, and we're just trying to give you what you want. We want to sell you what you want. You're looking at cars that we want to give you the car you want. There's something deeper than that, right, James?
I think so, yeah. And this is just the modern day equivalent of, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear, which of course is a spurious, illogical argument in the first place. But now we have the modern equivalent of that. Oh, it's just for advertising. Like, what do you care? They're just going to try to show you products that you care about. So it's a good thing, which again is nonsense on its face. But as you say, is a lie, or at least, no, that's partly true. I mean, there is that aspect to it, but the monetary concern here is not the primary concern. And that's part of the limited hangout that we get on so many different issues. Oh, it's just about the money. No, it's about the power. It's about the control. And we can only think that because the actual roots of this technology, in this case, Silicon Valley itself, and the actual roots in military intelligence, in the intelligence agencies, has been obscured from the general public's understanding. So they think it is just these companies that came out of nowhere and now they control 99% of our lives. But, oh, it's only for the money. And of course, it's not about the money. It's about the power and control.
And we're just seeing the data's proving all that. I mean, when we see that YouTube's with their new algorithms have lost $80 billion, when we see that Netflix has lost a ton of billions of dollars with lost subscribers, and and just television, is anybody watching it? And yet they keep doing the same thing, which makes you think that it's not about money, and that was all facade before, and it's really about what we in the conspiracy world have always been saying. It's about propaganda and about programming. That's why in television it's not called scheduling, it's called programming. And it's just like YouTube has lost so much money. Have they changed the way they operated? No. There's no other business that would lose $80 billion and then keep doing it. If it wasn't that they had another objective, and that is bigger than the objective before. It's like what I said about Nike and Colin Kaepernick and these stupid Susan B. Anthony shoes. It's like Nike makes millions off these shoes, $1 billion, maybe $1 billion. But the people at the highest levels that owns Nike, they make their money in gods: gold, oil, drugs, sex trafficking. That's where the real money is. And they'll sacrifice some millions over here at Nike to keep the big money makers, cooking with gas.
Yeah, why would Bezos, the billionaire, buy the Washington Post? It's not because he's expecting to make a lot of money off of that. Owning a newspaper at this point is ridiculous, except for getting to own a prestigious news organization that people take seriously. Billionaires are now buying up news because, of course, they want to set an agenda, not because they're there to make money. It's not a business deal. It's about setting the tone, setting the conversation, controlling the discourse. In the exact same way, what is Silicon Valley ultimately about? It isn't about making a few more dollars. That certainly is part of it, but no, it's about increasingly controlling our lives and how we behave on a day-to-day basis. Is there anyone in this conversation that doesn't have a fondle slab that controls and dictates what they're doing on a day-to-day basis to a worrying extent? And this is only the beginning of the slippery slope. Can you imagine our children, our children's children, how far down the rabbit hole they'll be going with these technologies controlling every aspect of their lives? And the worst part is that pretty soon it's going to go from technology that we have some control over to technology that we have no control over. And that's represented in things like Alexa and other pieces of technology like that.
For sure. James, your video, there you are. You're caught up now. It's all fine. And let's take the big three that have been like really infringing on our privacy: Facebook, Google, Amazon. Each one of those companies have either a recent history or in their infancy a connection with the CIA through their weird shell companies that they use to make money and give you seed money. We see that with Facebook. We see that with Google. And then we have Amazon and the Washington Post, which you brought up, which came with a fat contract with the CIA. So we see the connections with these three particular companies who have the biggest, we have the biggest problem with how they're selling our data, just monitoring us, listening to us when we ask not to, we have no say. Like I have an Amazon television I just bought because it was $100. $100, okay? It's sitting on the floor, but I know even in its dormant stage, it's listening to us. And they gave it to me for $100. There's a reason they want you to take that TV home over these other ones.
Well, there's a great video, and I've talked about this in the past. It's a great video called "Free is a Lie," and you can see it on YouTube. And have you watched that, James? It's a great video, and they talk about like why is the Nexus phone half the price of the iPhone? Because it's like, oh, you think you're getting this deal, but what they're doing is you're paying more than you're paying for the iPhone, but you're paying with your information. You're giving them all this free information. When you use your Gmail account, when you use all this stuff that they can sell and mine, and then if you're the CIA, if you're government, like it's way easier to get this stuff from these private companies than doing all this work yourself. It just makes more sense. Like if Google and YouTube is already consuming all this information and having all this of your personal information, why not go to them and get it instead of if you're the NSA doing it yourself? But it's scary because, and I think that title of that video, "Free is a Lie," is really important because we look at all these services like they're free. Oh, it's free, it's free, it's free, and there is a price we're paying. We're sacrificing something. We're sacrificing our privacy. We're sacrificing our information. And like James said, the very common argument is always, well, if you have nothing to hide, then why, then what's the big deal or whatnot? But it's like, it's amazing how the internet has almost made us rethink what privacy is, because in that Freeze Alive video, he talks about, snail mail and like, what if, we told you that we're going to give, we're going to go to your mailbox and make copies and read every single piece of mail in the mailbox. We look at that like, holy shit, no, that's invading my privacy. Yeah. That's a big deal. But when they do that online, it's completely acceptable and okay. And I think it's almost like we've accepted the fact that this is just the way things are. And we look at privacy online completely different than we would look at privacy in the past.
Right, and let's just document what we're talking about here, because I always like to document everything, but this isn't even conspiracy theory or conjecture. Amazon admitted back in 2017 that they were selling their Echo Dots at a loss, $4.88 below component costs, precisely to get it into everyone's home. That is their strategy, and that's as you say, that's happening across their product line with their, hey, buy the smart TV from us, and it'll only be $100. Why is that? Oh well, you'll find out in 10 years when we when we show you. Oh, by the way, we're recording everything you say, see, and do.
When we see these people enraged at cops pulling people over for nothing, and how upset they get about that, infringements on their rights, and yet that's exactly what's going on. I mean, you brought it up correctly, man. If authorities went through your house the way they went through your computer, heads would explode. And I would tell you that you have more personal, very unique stuff about you on your computer than you do around your house. I mean, the days of having, a stash porno mag somewhere, those days are done. And that's another thing. Why is Pornhub for free? Why is all this mass, well-produced, like super edited videos all just given to you for free? Why is that? Oh, well, maybe they can find out what weird stuff you're into, and maybe they can lead you into some other weird stuff. Or can they see, like, are you leaving comments on maybe borderline edgy videos that they could kind of track? I'm convinced that's what all that stuff on YouTube's about. When we see those videos, we're like, why is that video up there? That is obviously some very disgusting, uncalled for comments. And you see all these comments are like, well, they're just following these people, kind of like the Area 51 thing. You know, it's like all these 2 million people sign up to storm Area 51. Guess what? They're now following you because you just signed up to storm a government facility. You know, like they're really watching you on
And you
that.
just touched on an important part of this, is that it isn't the physical intrusion into your home, so people don't think about it, they don't confront it that way, but there are occasions in which that does happen, and people might have seen that recent report. There was an Intercept reporter who went, oh my god, you know, I just went in, I was doing a story in Mexico, and I came back into the States. I'm an American citizen, you know, I should just walk through. But no, they stopped me for special screening, they took out my phone, they went through everything, and suddenly, you know, all my sources, all the stories I'm working on, I mean, I have no secrets at all. Nothing. Everything is there. And and I was like, what are my rights here? Oh, I have no rights. They can look through anything they want. And he was all surprised by this, because unfortunately, this is the type of thing, until it physically happens to you in front of your own eyes and you realize what's going on and you can't do anything to do against it, then you don't really think about it. And that's the most insidious part of this, because for a lot of people, they're never going to have that physical intrusion, or at least maybe that's far down the road for them. But as it's happening in the back door, yeah, whatever, okay, I just signed away all my rights in some user agreement that I didn't even spend 2 seconds looking at. Whatever. You know, hey, I got a new face app that'll show me what I look like when I'm older. Yay! Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and that was said. Like, I did a face app, but I didn't do it. My friend took a picture of me. I won't put that thing on my phone, you know. But, I mean, we told you when they were doing that 10-year thing that was something that they were trying to do. And just people just don't care. They just don't see them. Everything's about what is right now. What is this right now?
That face app, the second you upload it, it has access to all your pictures, everything on your phone. And just like most apps now, like, people don't realize, like, when you agree to these terms and services, like, literally all these apps have access to everything that's on your phone. And what's our phone used for? Everything. So they literally have access to every piece of your life, from like your passwords. You know, like I have an app that saves my passwords. I, you know, constantly have to change them, so I keep forgetting them. So I have an app where I can keep them there. And you know, your bank accounts, your emails, your, like, all this stuff.
It knows everything about you. And that was the funny part about that recent controversy about that app, is that everyone's going, oh my god, you know, this is some Russian app and they've got access to everything. But then other people were pointing out, this is exactly the same as the terms that are in all these other apps, but you don't care about those ones. Why do you care about this one? Oh, it's the Russians. Okay, when the Russians do it, it's bad. When the Americans do it, it's good.
Yeah, it's a buzzword.
I highly recommend everybody check out that documentary, Terms and Conditions May Apply. It's a little older, but it's a really good documentary. And they go through how, like, they've even changed the terms and conditions. Like, they'll say, oh, that was in there, and somebody will archive them and be like, no, you never made me re-agree to it, and you changed the language in it. But because nobody reads it, nobody even knows that if the language was changed or not. And then they really dissect how they specifically make it boring to read, the language kind of difficult to understand, long and small print, all these little techniques that kind of make you, like, give up on it and just agree to it, you know. And just one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast was because recently I've had a few past guests that had been censored on Amazon Prime. I had The Big Secret, which was a great documentary about the history of medicine and how Big Pharma kind of took over medicine. James, you might not know it because your stuff's all open source, but you're actually in that documentary. There's a clip of you in there. They use, I think you're a part of your Rockefeller Medicine video in that documentary. It's a great documentary, and they just got pulled from Amazon Prime. I was at the Red Pill Expo in Hartford like a month ago or whenever it was, and at the Red Pill Expo, Del Bigtree, who's been on my podcast, did the Vax documentary. He talked about they had a contract with Amazon Prime that Vax was supposed to be free on Amazon Prime forever, and they just pulled it. And so, you know, and now like people listen to my podcast with Del Bigtree, and I'm referring, hey, check out the documentary if you like this interview. You know, it's on Amazon Prime, free on Amazon Prime, and now it's not available. So it's like they're pulling the stuff. You know, I think Brzezinski, another past guest of mine, Dr. Brzezinski, his documentary about his cancer treatment, been pulled. I mean, what the thing that drives me crazy and really kind of works me up is the fact that people now don't even have access to the other side of the argument. So it's like, okay, even if you think that, okay, you're pro-vaccine, even if you think that, like, okay, you think Dr. Brzezinski is pseudoscience, like, you can't even do your own research and be like, let me watch this documentary and then come up with my own conclusion, establish my own opinion. Because you can only have a well-informed opinion if you have information, if you're informed. And it's like, now, if you control the information, and this is, you know, going to be a recurring theme of this podcast, if you control the information, you control people's perspectives, you control people's opinions, you can only have a opinion based on the information you have access to. Now, if you control that information, you know, when manufacturing consent was written, I mean, you could only, you know, this was even really an issue, you know, the internet and the way they can manufacture consent using, you know, what we see and what's suggested and whatnot. I mean, you think about like YouTube, Google. I mean, they have more power and more influence over what's going on in the world than politicians, than laws, than anything. You know, in that Freeze live video, they talk about how, you know, he showed like some graph, and he had a mark on some graph. It's like, this is when Google knows that you're about, I think when you're about to go in a relationship, like it knows almost before you do that you're about to go in a relationship, you know, like they have dissected. And I think it's like Silicon Valley's like a higher psychologist and then like anybody else, you know, just trying to understand how to manipulate people and stuff. So it's like, it's way darker. It's not just understanding us, but it's controlling us. It's understanding how to control us and change the way we look at things and change and you know, influence our decision making.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I mean, one thing I find very interesting is how the people would rather run to the people who've been misinforming them forever, you know, whether it's Facebook, mainstream media, over and over again. You know, you kind of brought up with the Face app, James, is that, you know, people flipped out because it was the Russians, you know, and that's kind of the same thing with RT News. It's like RT News scares so many people because it's Russia Tonight, right? And that notion is just like, oh, they're the bad people. But I mean, like, dude, who lied you into wars? Who lied to you about what medication's going on? Who is like using the military to guard poppy fields in Afghanistan and flooding your country with drugs? I mean, with opium. I mean, it's like, who is the bad guy? Who is it? Like, I go to people, listen, dude, and I make no doubts about that. Like, oligarchies are oligarchies. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Putin is a wonderful man and he's fighting the deep state. I have no illusions of that. But my question is, who's your enemy? Who is going to have a direct effect on your life, man? It's like, I go, okay, what have the Russians done to you? I ask them, what have they done to you? Like, what is the Cold War about? Well, the Cold War is about this stockpiling of nuclear weapons, right? Well, that sounds like a great way to up military spending, okay? It's like, what is the real basis between this Red Scare, and how far back does it go between Russia, Alexander II, and these international bankers and all that stuff? So you got to really ask yourself, is the military-industrial complex, the big pharmaceuticals, and everybody else who owns all of our mainstream media, are they better off? Do they have your interest better off than the Russians who run RT News? You know,
RT is Russian state-sponsored propaganda. Now, excuse me while I go watch BBC News.
Yeah, right.
What? How does that work? Yeah, no, it's stupid. No, RT is Russian state-sponsored propaganda, and you have to take it with that perspective. You have to understand the bias that it's coming from. but BBC as well. And hey, how about the American networks? Hey, they may not be literally run by the government officially, but there's a lot of, shall we say, corporate and other interests that influence and bias their news. I'm biased. I have my own perspectives and ideological position that I don't make any bones about. Everyone has their biases and agendas and things that they want to promote. And to assume that there's some objective source of information floating on the clouds is, of course, what the oligarchs want you to believe. Because, hey, we're the ones with the objective source floating on the clouds. We're the ones that have no bias. And that is reflected in what I think is the most disturbing part of the whole censorship agenda that's rolling out right now. For me, the outright banning from platforms isn't as scary as the more insidious psychological techniques that are being used on the public right now. Because when someone is banned from a platform completely, let's take Del Bigtree off Amazon, let's take, such and such off YouTube, whatever.
Alex Jones,
sure. Let's take him off and ban him from all these platforms. That is out there, blatant. You cannot avoid it. They are censoring this person. It is a big flashing neon light for anyone who cares. And sure, a lot of the public doesn't care, but for those who care, hey, this is being censored. But the more insidious idea of censorship is, one, tailoring the access to information so that you don't have to censor someone off a website completely. I'm still on YouTube, but it's getting harder and harder to search for my material on YouTube. You're getting it recommended less and less. In such a gradual process, maybe a lot of people don't consciously recognize it until one day, no matter what I search, I can't find James's work. I have to go directly to the address. What's going on? That's one way that this works, but the even more insidious level are all of these media bias fact-checking sites that are coming online right now. The different news filters and fake news warning things that are being put into, now being installed in various software. And it's happening gradually, so people don't notice it. But I guarantee you, the Corbett Report is on a lot of those lists, and a lot of your sites and sites that you go to will be on those lists as well. And that will start to affect, perhaps not us. I mean, maybe people in our age bracket and people who have been around the internet a little know what's going on and won't be willfully taking this on, but our children's children, what would the internet look like 10 years from now, let alone 20, 30, 40 years from now? Would you be able to access half of the information that you do today? And probably not. And again, it's not censoring people off platforms. It's creating lists that perhaps will even be voluntary. Oh, wait, I'm about to look at this piece of information, but I should check out on this media bias site and find out if that's good information or not, because I can't think for myself. It's at the point where we start to internalize the censorship propaganda. Oh, I don't know if I can trust this or not. I better go to a trusted authority to decide if I can trust this information. When we start absolving ourselves of our own responsibility to understand and process information, game over for humanity.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, you think about the amount of people that you think about years ago when social media was really blowing up and everybody was discussing how the majority of people now, especially the younger crowd, get their news from Twitter and Facebook instead of the mainstream media. Now, if you think about it, if you're the military industrial complex, if you're the government, if you're corporations, if you're whoever you are, if you're trying to influence people and you understand that, okay, if everybody's going to these sites or using these websites or these apps for their news, then we can control those sites. Joe Rogan has said how he's never trended on Twitter. How is he never trended on Twitter? That's look at the Alex Jones show he did. Didn't rank or whatnot on iTunes. That's false advertisement. You're telling me that these are what's trending. These are the things people are talking about. These are the most popular things, but yet you're not showing me it. So, why isn't James's videos constantly being suggested? I mean, you have videos that have thousands and thousands of watches. If I'm looking up a topic, rarely do I ever see one of your videos being suggested. And usually it's only after I watched a bunch of your videos, then but I'm already a fan. But to that person that you might be exposed to some new information, they're not getting that information. They're not getting the benefit of that. And, to me, it's we had this idea that, they're suggesting this stuff completely, unbiased. And it's just okay, we're suggesting because this is what you're looking up. But now that's not, it's obvious that's not the case. They're telling you what you should be watching and what you should believe. And I mean, even the OKC video we've done, James, and you see with a lot of your videos, they have the link underneath Wikipedia, Here's
Yeah.
the Wikipedia
Yeah.
link. So if you want to read more, you want to read more about this story, it's like, wait, what do you, why do you have Wikipedia is not above? I mean, you can get some information from there, but you're acting like that's truth with a capital T. Like, this is, if you want to get the truth, forget the video you're watching. Like, this is where you can get the actual information. So I think these things are huge issues.
Yeah, and
like
that's such a good point. They're always trying to tie our hands behind the back, and they never want to fight a fair fight. And I always go back to this because I remember it so vividly. When I first started researching this stuff, 2006, Google Video still existed at that time. Remember that? And YouTube was limited to 10 minutes at that time. So Google Video is where you went for the big documentaries and stuff. But I remember they had a front page that involved top 10 videos of the day, top 10 trending videos or whatever. I swear, every single day, at least 7 or 8 of the top 10 videos was loose change, terror storm, 9/11 demolitions. It was all truth-related stuff every single day. And I guess Google eventually realized this, and they started jiggering whatever algorithm it was. I remember just with like a flick of a switch, suddenly it was like, look at this funny fart video kind of thing. And suddenly the top 10 just completely changed. And then they hid the top 10 in some kind of sidebar that you had to like click through to try to find. And then they hid it completely, so you had to go directly to the URL. And then they got rid of Google Video altogether. And it was the same thing with YouTube. Remember, YouTube used to have a front page with trending videos. I even trended on that front page back in the day when that existed. And then they're like, no, let's get rid of the front page. Now everyone will have their individual, recommended video page, and we'll make it so and now it's more and more recommending nonsense and fluff. And it's funny. I mean, you know the types of stuff that I'm looking for and searching and subscribing to and whatever, and I get none of that recommended to me now. It's all like, hey, here's the Dick Cavett show. You're interested in this, right? Or here's, Jimmy Fallon. Like, oh, you know me.
And they
exactly
could talk about the same things you're talking about, Jimmy Fallon, and they would recommend that. It's who's recommending it. I mean, and again, we go back that Google itself admitted it lost $80 billion with their new algorithms, man. And that shows you what people are going to YouTube for. They're going to learn. They want to learn. It's almost like the Matrix. When the Matrix he's like, whoa, I know Kung Fu, right? He's downloading information. That's what these videos are doing, downloading information to these people, okay? I mean, a great example of censorship of news. I don't know if you guys remember this, but towards the end of Jon Stewart's run on Comedy Central, on the Daily Show, there was a lot of talk, especially from the Republicans, okay, that people were going to that channel for their news. They were going to that show for their news. They weren't going to the mainstream media, CBS, the nightly news. They were going to watch Jon Stewart to get their news. And then suddenly Jon Stewart decides, I want to step down. I don't want to do it anymore. Who's going to replace Jon Stewart? And there was all this debate. One of my good friends, Al Magical, was one of the people up for it. And rumor was that Jon Stewart wanted Al Magical to take his spot. Who did they pick? Trevor Noah. Nobody got that at all. Everyone's like, why is this guy? And nobody's talking about the show anymore.
Well, he's
Nobody.
Not funny. He's
What's
not
that?
Funny. He's not funny at all. Like, at least John.
But my point is that that's done on purpose. So people aren't going there for the news. That it's not. And I have 2 friends on that show, that Mike Costa and a couple other people. And I'm super happy for them, and I want the show to do well. But nobody talks about that show the way they used to talk about that show. Nobody goes to that show for the news. And just think about this. Once that show dies, all of a sudden, like, the Republicans are the good guys in on all the social media, and the Democrats are just crashing and burning crazy people who are all satanic pedophiles running cults and stuff like that. I mean, it's like interesting stuff, dude.
Well, look, they had that show after Trevor took over. Remember that other political show that took Stephen Colbert's show?
It was like supposed to be a conspiracy show, and it just crashed, burned.
No, I don't think it was conspiracy. It was like some roundtable discussion.
Oh, yeah, Larry Fillmore.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and now same thing. It was like they're trying to be edgy and having some debate, but everything was so biased. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's and sometimes the problem with some of this censorship, it's like you get some of the conservatives and the liberals, and then it's like, the conservatives are saying that, and probably in some cases they are being censored, maybe more than the liberals are. But at the end of the day, it's not a liberal conservative thing. It's not. So it's like, even though I'm glad that the conservatives are fighting for this issue, and they're putting attention on it, they're making it out to be like it's only because we have conservatives, a conservative perspective, that they're trying to. They're trying
it's
to
not a principled thing. People are rooting for colors, team colors, because, and this is the clearest part about this, 20, 30 years ago, it was all about the left crying out the right are trying to censor our free speech, and look at all these moral police trying to crack down on bad words in rap music and whatever. And now it's 180 degrees, and now the left is like, please stop, censor these people because they're saying things we don't like. It shows no one is arguing from a principled position here. And when and if, conservatives get into a position of cultural supremacy or technological supremacy or whatever it is, they'll use it against the left because it is a weapon.
Yeah, come back around, man. It'll come back. I've always said this, and if you kind of take a look at it, deregulation and how long they've been trying to deregulate everything business-wise, and then you compare that to how long we've been kind of having this liberal, and I'm a liberal, but this movement to not be like love and respect and political correctness, and we just get to a point where we kind of achieved where we wanted to get to, but we just keep going. And now we're getting into bizarro land of deregulation and bizarro land of political correctness, where it's him, her, shim, shim, zip, 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 zap, zop. And it makes no sense, but we've gone so far, we've got one so much, we just got to see if we can get a little bit more. And it's the same thing with deregulation in business. There's been so much deregulation, so many wins on that front for that side, that they just keep trying to deregulate more stuff, and it's just it doesn't make any sense at all. And that's kind of, I think, where we are, that we're getting spit roasted by the right and the left, that is trying to just tear us apart, and it's chaos.
Yeah, I think things can go too far. You look at liberals, and I think, it's like that saying, if you're not a liberal when you're young, you don't have a heart. If you're not a conservative when you're old, you don't have a brain, something like that. But it is one of those things, when you're young, it's very easy to kind of be a liberal. I mean, I was too, because it was like, oh yeah, I want people to everybody to have rights, and I'm against racism, and I want people to have the right to do whatever they want and feel whatever they want and dress however they want without being judged. And but you look at it now, it's like, okay, we want to be open to people who want to have sex changes, for example. But then you're so open that it's like, my 8-year-old thinks he's a tree, so I want to help him get surgery to become a tree.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Or you look at all the sex hormone therapy that's happening at such a young age, and a majority of these kids are, how many people get a tattoo at 18 who don't regret it? You don't think kids at 10 who are getting sex hormone replacement, there's a huge majority of them that regret it and go through depression and all this stuff. So it's like, yeah, I get your purpose is like, oh, I'm open to whatever my child is feeling, but it's going so far in one direction that's like, now you're just becoming an idiot, and you're just letting them do whatever they want. And you have to give them some guidance and be like, listen, you're young, you're still figuring out who you are. So it's like, I guess I'm going on a tangent, but my point is,
no, you're making sense, dude.
Yeah, but even that goes too far, where it's just like, your heart's in the right place, but now you went too far where you become a extremist. And it just, you kind of...
You make no sense. There's no common sense there. It's like, there was a time when people were really outraged by steroid abuse by high school kids. And they were like, these kids should not be doing steroids, so they're better at football. Their bodies are growing. And everybody went nuts. But for some reason, we've been told that kids on hormone therapy is totally acceptable. And I'm like, that makes about as much sense as saying kids should be able to get face tattoos in 6th grade. You're like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. It makes no sense.
Let's bring this back to the sort of the main overarching topic of our conversation, because I think it relates. I mean, what has fundamentally changed over the past few decades that has flipped this whole political conversation into this insane dogfight between ridiculous sides? I think one of the key factors that's changed is the internet, and specifically social media, and the type of conversation that it enables, and the types of voices that get to the top of that dog pile. It is not the sane, rational people who have, well thought out positions. It is whoever screams the loudest and creates the most, you just said the word, it is the word, outrage. It is an outrage culture driven by outrage, It's, again, you could just say, oh, it's just clickbait and they're just trying to do it to get you to click so you can get advertising money. But no, it is about shaping a political discourse that is ruled by extreme voices on either side. And it is absolutely the ultimate manifestation of divide and conquer, because where is this sending us? It is not sending us into a place where suddenly we're going to have some sort of big conversation and work everything out as a society. Of course not. This is driving people apart as far as possible, dividing them up on every single issue you can imagine: race, gender, sexuality, religion. Absolutely every issue will become a wedge issue to push people further apart. And who benefits from that? Of course, the people who are in control of this status quo as it exists.
They can't come together at all. I mean, like, James, you say that your videos are kind of at some point almost being shadow banned, but we see people within our conspiracy realm who just rail on Jews, rails on blacks, rails on gays, and their videos don't get touched. Why? Because they muck it up. They cause chaos. They cause people to do what you say. Go to the right, go to the left. But you have people who are going, regardless of what you think of, let's say, a Holocaust video, right? Like someone who sits there and takes a look at a Holocaust video, and I'm not making any political statement on this, but you take a look at that and why that gets wiped clean, right, instantly, wiped clean off of YouTube. Yet this guy over here railing on Jews doesn't get touched. Why? Because that causes chaos, and that causes extremism, and that's what they want. They want people to run to this side and that side, like we're about to play dodgeball, where we all just run, grab our balls, go to the back and start throwing it the other side.
Yeah, selective censorship is another tool of control, because it's like, how did he get banned and this guy didn't get banned? And then it starts the internecine warfare that, again, is part of the divide and conquer.
And if you add to the mucking, that's it. Sorry, go on, Ricardo.
No, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, like, even shows like Red Ice Radio, which, has been around for a while, and they have a lot of great guests on. I'm pretty sure James has probably been on there a few times. I've had a lot of past guests on my show who've been on there, and I don't agree with everything he says. And he's obviously, very opinionated on certain things, but he's been censored. And just like Alex Jones, just like anybody who have these extreme views that you disagree with, like, their voices should still be heard. And within that, another thing we're talking about here, it's like, just because you don't agree with the majority of what they're saying, or maybe a portion of what they're saying, it doesn't mean that I didn't take anything from that show. I mean, it wasn't where I was exposed to James Corbett, but it could have been. I could have listened to that show, be like, okay, this guy James is awesome. Let me, see what he's doing, and go to his website. And next thing you know, I'm exposed to somebody really interesting. Breitbart, for example. I don't agree with Breitbart, but they might have an article that, has really good information and exposes, I can really get something from. So it's like, the Clinton cash, I remember that documentary, and I remember bringing it up to people, and they're like, oh, what's his face? He's biased. I'm like, so is everybody. I'm like, everybody has an opinion. So I'm like, but you can't, like, let's look at the information and discredit it because it's wrong, not because you don't like the person who's stating it, or putting the documentary together, or writing the article. Because I think that's a really easy way to just dismiss something. It's like, we're not even talking about the facts. We're just saying, I don't like that person. I think he has a biased opinion. So I'm just, going to dismiss everything he's saying. It's like, no, let's just look at I might not agree with him either, but he might make a valid point in this one situation, where he might, there might be some good information in that documentary, or in that article, or on that website. So this idea of, like, it is a huge issue where, like, Alex Jones, for example, he gets, like, because people think he's crazy, and maybe he is, they just dismiss everything he's ever said always. And I'm like, he's been right about a lot of shit. And
a lot of shit.
And like James talked about Terror Storm. I mean, some of these documentaries were, rabbit holes, really opened the minds to a lot of people. The Zeitgeist movies, same thing. You might not agree with everything, but you know what? It helped a lot of. James is already shaking his head. We've had this conversation before, but when it came down to the banking scam, when it came down to a lot of that stuff, it helped people realize, like, holy shit, like, they're just creating money out of thin air, like the way they make money, and the value of money, and all this. So there's a lot of good information in there. So it's like, you don't have to agree with everybody to to me, it's like everybody should have the right to say whatever they want. If you're a Holocaust denier, if you're whatever it may be, let me hear your argument. I remember the first time I heard that Hitler made it in Argentina, I thought it was crazy. And then I had Gerard Williams on my show, and now I'm convinced without a doubt he made it in Argentina.
Sure.
And he was, he ended up being on the History Channel afterwards, and they did DNA tests and all this stuff. So a lot of things, when you first hear it, it sounds crazy. And then you do a little bit of research and like, oh shit, there's something.
Okay, so that's a very reasonable position. But how does that really play out in reality? Because what you're saying is, everyone should be allowed to say what they're going to say and we'll decide the information. Absolutely. Reasonable adults can decide for themselves what information they're going to take on board and what they can't. But what does that mean in terms of a platform like YouTube, for example? And let's put this in a slightly different context. Should the government come in and say, it is not illegal to produce pornography, therefore YouTube has to allow pornography on their platform? Of course not. But how come then we can say, well, it's not illegal to say this political position, therefore YouTube must allow this political position on their platform? Who gives the government the right to do that?
I understand what you're saying. I guess that would come down to that, pornography is considered adult. We have adult venues where only adults can go into and stuff like that. I agree with you saying where's the line that we draw and all that stuff.
I think the problem is this leads us into the false dialogue that gets to the false conclusion. Okay, so government should step in and regulate these platforms and say you have to allow all these people on your platform, and the platforms can't compete. So the platforms that can abide by whatever filter system and whatever else compliance rules that the government sets up are going to be the ones that survive. YouTube, billions of dollars, teams of lawyers, international company, infrastructure all over the world. I think they'll be okay. DTube, BitChute, these other startups that, have 3 people working for them maybe, are they going to be able to do it? Of course not. It's going to completely eliminate any competition. It takes our responsibility, again, away from us and puts it on, no, it's up to the government to provide us with some platform that they control that will allow us to have our speech, which I think is the wrong way to go, because in the long run, that's only going to cement the monopolies of these big tech giants.
Well, I mean, if you look at Tumblr real quick, they were attempting this thing where it's like anything goes. And then child pornography was making it on there, and they either use that as a reason to get rid of all pornography or some of the more darker shit or whatever. So I always feel no matter what you do, there's someone's gonna come in and be like, but I want to do this. You're like, well, we all agree that's wrong. Like, I think 99% or 95% of the population be like, okay, if you want to post all the weird porn you're into, kiddie porn is not welcomed here. That should be one regulation, but there's always going to be someone who just comes in there and just tries to see how far they can push it, and then at the end of the day, we all have to pay a price for it. But I think if we're going back to all these videos and James your videos and everybody you brought up, Ricardo, I think that the big thing is the videos that really get pulled are truth to power. Are the ones that are really bringing truth to power and laying down the foundation of the lies that let you know that basically everything you think isn't real. And those are the ones that get wiped off. The ones that are just like, Hitler wasn't a bad guy. Those are going to stay on because those muck it up. But the ones that are like, hey, dude, these are the United States corporations that funded Hitler. He was a Rothschild. We helped him get the Argentina. Those are the ones that may eventually get pulled because those are the ones who get in your head and change the way you see things.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think it's that straightforward. I wish it were that easy. Okay, so all the censored videos are the right ones, and then anything that's left up must be some sort of misinformation, right? But then that's an easy game to play by the platforms. So then they ban some, they censor some of that information, then they censor some real information, they censor something in between, they censor over here, they censor over there, and then you don't know what to believe, because if you go from the mindset, if it's censored, it must be good, then unfortunately, again, that's an easy game to play for the
Okay,
platform.
I'll give you that. I just feel that a lot, like the Alex Jones stuff, I feel like a lot of it's censored because it was truth to power, and then they throw in when they threw in Twitter banned all these people and they threw in Louis Farrakhan out of nowhere. And it was just like, where's that guy coming from? It was just like they added in to see hey, we're going after a lot of people. But, Yeah, I guess you're right, man.
Well,
I'll take an L on that one.
To Sam's point, I mean, I think there is something to the fact that like somebody like Martin Luther King, who's spreading ideas, is much more dangerous to the establishment than somebody who is starting a riot and breaking shit and starting fires and is
David Duke on Twitter, he's still there.
You know, I do agree, but I will say, like, I am a little confused on what they do and do not censor. I'm not sure I have an established opinion on what exactly, like, why they pick and choose who they're censoring more than others. I mean, look at the Epstein thing, right? All of a sudden, like, this is stuff that we've all talked about forever. I mean, we've all talked about the Franklin scandal. We've all talked about, you know, I've had the filmmaker from a Open Secret on. I think you guys have too, or talked to him. You know, this is stuff that's been talked about. I mean, James has done tons of videos on this stuff, on Dennis Haster and all this stuff. Like, and yet all of a sudden it's like breaking news. Epstein's this billionaire who's linked to all these guys. It's like, why is this stuff? But this is actually a legit question, because I'm not sure I understand why all of a sudden, like, something that seemed to be suppressed, a story that seemed to be suppressed, all of a sudden, like, everybody got it's almost like they had a meeting and they're like, hey, like, we're getting the green light to talk about this, right, and now we can talk about it. You know,
well, I mean, the sort of straightforward answer is, because it was the Miami Herald, right? Did their investigative series and brought it back into light. But then, again, well, how did they pick this up and why is this coming to light? I just did a little test, actually, just to see what we're talking about. I am signed into YouTube, so it's my account with my subscriptions and my viewing history and all that. And I just typed Epstein, into the YouTube search, and I'm getting Ring of Fire #1, TRU reporting #2, Sam Tripoli #3.
Yay!
So there you go. I mean, the search, we were talking about the way the search is being limited, but hey, there's still, and for topics like this that are just coming up, perhaps not limited searches yet, but how long will that last? And I have experience from that. I've talked about it a few times. There was last year, Chris Hayes, MSNBC, did a tweet about, the dangers of YouTube and whatever. And he said, imagine you're in a high school student and you go, you have a homework project on the Federal Reserve. So you type Federal Reserve into YouTube and you get this. And he tweets a screenshot of Century of Enslavement. And so I was like, awesome, good advertising. And a lot of people in the Twitter comments were like, hey, that's a good documentary, thank you. But the upshot of that, the very next day, you type Federal Reserve into YouTube, Century of Enslavement ain't there on the first page of results. I mean, immediately they changed the algorithm. And that's the way this is going to work. And I'm sure, however this plays out, I'm pretty sure in the near future, Epstein is not going to bring up Sam Tripoli #3.
Don't do that to me, dude.
Well, listen, sorry.
What if we always hear that leaders are chosen, not elected. What if this whole Trump election was just some kind of facade to bring in this internet censorship to save us from the rogue candidate who's driving everything crazy, like, what if it's that deep, man? Like, all this stuff is so pre-planned. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, we see the Bush-Clinton connection and how they were going at it in the election. And when we just know they were buddies fucking shipping coke into Arkansas. It was all this theater, this pro wrestling. What if this is part of it? What if Obama spying on Trump and Hillary and the WikiLeaks and all this is just all, even though Seth Rich was murdered, sadly, trying to get this out. What this is all part of this giant script in order to lock down the internet. I could see that being a play. I mean, like, you create...
I certainly see that, and I agree. But let's not even... I mean, we don't even have to go there. It's certainly possible. But I think the real point of this is, however this plays out, and whatever kind of thing pops up, and whatever doesn't pop up, whatever gets suppressed, whatever comes up, whatever comes out in the news, they're going to try to spin it towards an agenda. And I think the agenda, we understand. The agenda is long-term towards this censorship, control of the internet. Eventually, you're going to be thumbprinting or whatever to get online. We know it's heading there. It's just how many steps between here and there. So any any story that comes up, they're going to see how they can flip it and spin it so that it gets us closer to that agenda. And from that perspective, you don't even have to engineer every single step of the 100 steps along the path. You just have to make sure that once you reach a certain step, okay, we have to go this way. Once we reach a certain step, okay, we have to go that way. And if you can control that discourse, then you can control the entire journey, no matter if you are controlling each step along the way, if you know what I'm saying.
Now,
Chinese social credits, almost.
That's it. I mean, we're heading there.
One thing about the Epstein thing I forgot to mention was that I found interesting and might answer the question on why this stuff is all of a sudden okay to report. Everybody's talking about how Trump is linked to Epstein, but the Clinton link has kind of disappeared, and nobody's talking about. So I wonder how much of this is just the hatred towards Trump by the media, using this like, oh, now we can use this guy to make Trump look worse and whatnot. Because somebody, I don't know who it was, which podcast I was listening to, where they said that if you Google Epstein and Clinton, like all the pictures of them together like disappeared, like
Gone.
Yeah. So I wonder how much of that is just.
Yeah, but again, I don't think so. I wouldn't say that that's part of a plan. Like, okay, let's bring Epstein back into the light with all of his documented connections to Clinton that have already been discussed in the Black Book and all of that, so that we can get Trump. That doesn't make strategic sense to me. But if Epstein comes back into the light, then it's like, okay, so let's just talk about Trump. And so that's the way you spin the information that's coming out towards a certain agenda.
So why do you? Because this story, like I said, like this story has been around, like similar to the Dennis Hastert story, and a lot of these things have been like suppressed from the public, the Franklin scandal, all this stuff, and all of a sudden it's like ABC News, NBC News, the Today Show, like every mainstream show there is talking about it. When you know that this is not breaking news, this has been going on for a while, and why do you? Is it a distraction to something else?
Yeah, I've noticed
because they thought like they couldn't.
I've noticed that's like the go-to conspiracy take on anything these days.
I know.
X is a distraction from Y. And you could say that about any two stories. Plug in any stories in there and you can make that argument.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of that. But here's my take. The premise of your argument there is that every story is controlled and is planned and is manipulated. Whereas I think, I don't believe that. I think the vast majority of people out there as reporters genuinely believe that they are doing good work, genuinely believe that they are trying towards a certain, get the truth out there kind of stuff. And they'll internalize a lot of the propaganda they have to internalize in order to function in that world. I mean, oh yeah, I'm not going to talk 9/11 inside job. That's crazy. I'll never go there. You don't need an editor saying, don't talk about 9/11 truth. I mean, no, everyone understands that's the game that's being played. Everyone thinks... most reporters, the ones that aren't directly on the payroll, and there are some that are directly on the payroll, but the ones that aren't, not every single one is controlled. And from time to time, stories do break. And I don't know. I don't know, obviously, why Epstein's coming, but it does come from that Miami Herald reporting that was going on last year. And where did that come from? And who gave the green light to that? Why was there no control put on that? It isn't necessarily that this is part of a conspiracy to bring this story back into light. It could be real reporters doing real reporting. I leave that possibility open at any rate.
But the argument is when they want a story to not be reported, they can do that.
Exactly like the Vanity Fair 2003 article, right, by Vicky Ward, where she had two of his victims on record, willing to go public, and they killed that part of the story.
So that's the thing that's really interesting about this thing is that, the fact that everybody is talking about it, it almost seems like it's just, to me, it's confusing. It's like, why all of a sudden is this? Unless they know he's linked to some people that they want to bring down. So, I don't know what it is, but it just seems really interesting that, because like we talked about Washington Post, obviously Operation Mockingbird, like all these newspapers and media companies are controlled, and there's everything from the CIA and big business having influence on what's going on and what's reported and what's not reported. So the fact that everybody's kind of like, it's like okay now to talk about it.
A lot of this stemmed from the court proceedings that were still ongoing and have been ongoing for years about unsealing certain documents. And for example, I mean, we only recently, in the past few years, I don't have the timeline in front of me, but we only recently found out about the details of that sweetheart deal the prosecution made a decade ago that was completely illegal and was withheld illegally from the victims. We only recently found out about this. So that's kind of new information that is now part of the public record that, again, even if every single story is manipulated, there are certain things that cannot, I mean, this is part of the public record now. Everyone knows about it, so they're going to have to talk about it one way or another. And when that happens and the snowball starts rolling, then I think they're trying to direct the snowball. Oh, look, it's Trump. Look at this footage of him from 1992 with Epstein. Yeah, we already knew they were friends in the 90s, but he says he disavowed it in the 2000s. What does this have to do with that? Nothing, but hey, it's footage of Epstein and Trump in 92, right?
We had talked about, too, it's like this is kind of before the show started, James and I was talking about how, or at least I was saying this to him, that this is kind of like Russian Gate, where it's like there's not really a denial of what's in the emails, more of a denial of how the emails got out, which was a hacking. They never denied what was in the emails, which to me was worse than the hacking, even if it was the Russians. Like, what's in the emails to me is 10 times worse than a Russian hacking. What we're seeing with this Donald Trump thing is like, hey, it's not a denial of pedophilia by all these people, but it's like Donald Trump is in on this too. He's a pedophile as well. Not a denial. We had Bill Clinton go, I did not do anything with those kids, which sounds just like that. I did not, I had oral sex. I didn't have sex with that woman, which we all know is a lie. But for the most part, nobody's denying that there was pedophilia going on there. There's some denial whether they engage in it, like with Dershowitz, but the real push by the media isn't a denial that people were being pedophiles. It is more of a push of the narrative that Trump engaged in pedophilia as well, and that and that to me is very important, because we don't see any denial of what's important to us, like who's kidnapping, raping, killing these children. It's like, oh, Trump's friends with him too. He's probably involved in this as well. And I think that's very dark. One thing I do like is, again, we were talking before, is like, I think the cool thing about the Costa plea deal coming out is that now it's really forced everybody to watch this judge and this prosecutor in this new trial with a magnifying glass, that we're not just going to ignore it, but we're really watching how they're proceeding with handling this case, because we know they got a sweetheart deal before. And as bad as that is, that sweetheart deal has really upped the exposure on this new trial and really put a lot of eyes watching, making sure this funny business doesn't happen again. And for that, I think we're looking at a whole different trial, and I think it's going to be a lot harder to pull a lot of this BS off.
But it's amazing the deal he got. To me, we always talk about how laws are really designed just to basically screw the poor and the people who really can't afford to get the best lawyers and the best attorneys and all this stuff. But to show how if you have friends in the right places and you have a lot of money, how even with all these people admitting that they saw you and they were a part of this, and eyewitnesses and girls coming out and saying that they were at these parties, like, you could still just make it all go away. It doesn't matter how much trouble you're in or how much evidence there is. If you have friends in the right places and you have money, you can make it all go away. It boggles my mind.
Oh, but Ricky didn't all go away. He spent 18 months in day release with light minimum security, and as we are now finding out, as the residents of St. James knew, yeah, he was flying into St. James to go out to his little St. James Island with underage girls as recently as a year ago. And everyone knew about this, but he tipped well, so they didn't say anything. I mean, yeah, sweetheart sweetheart deal sounds is the wrong words, because it doesn't put into language how utterly insane that travesty was. But
guys, do you guys have any thoughts on Costa coming out going, I was told that this guy is above my pay grade?
Well, he didn't come out and say that. That's the point. Vicky Ward reported that someone told her that Acosta told them. And we don't even know who told her. It was some White House source told her that Acosta told them that it was above his pay grade. And then, of course, in the actual press conference, go and watch that when they ask him about that. And he goes, well, there's been a lot of reporting and people are going down rabbit holes and blah, blah, blah. And he says he doesn't deny it. He doesn't confirm. He doesn't talk about it at all. He just says there's a lot of rabbit holes in the reporting, and I think people should concentrate on the story or whatever.
If there's any of a lizard looking person, Acosta looks like a lizard person for sure. Straight up lizard, dude.
Central casting.
About him,
Central cast.
His links to like Mossad and all this other stuff that's coming out.
For sure. And that's why I'm really amazed.
It's crazy how deep it goes. It's not. It doesn't even seem like it's only just a guy, a really rich guy with a sick fetish. It's like it seems like it's way deeper.
Because it is way deeper. It is the reason why we've seen, in my opinion, this movement that's helped certain countries in the Middle East over other certain countries, because these guys are all blackmail. I mean, it was done on purpose, man. The powers that be, whether it's Hollywood or Washington, D.C., is like, put these people in bad situations, film it, and then let them know they got the goods on it. It is done on purpose, man. And who knows how far it will go, but there's supposedly 2,000 files about to be released on all the sick shit that these guys did. And hopefully people will wake up that, it's like we're all worried about Russia meddling in our elections. Well, we got another country that's got their hands in the cookie jar. I mean, there's a reason why we have U.S. politicians voting to ban BDS, which is like completely a violation of your freedom of speech. When you have politicians like banning anti-Semitism talk, that is a violation of our freedom of speech. When you have people very high up in Hollywood talk about how they should teach the Holocaust in schools when we already teach World War II. It's already part of the curriculum. What is going on here? And like, dude, I have nothing against Israel. My girlfriend's family goes to Israel all the time. Like, on the lowest level, I think everybody is just a victim of this propaganda, this massive propaganda. When you hear Israelis talk about Palestinians as dogs, to me, that is a sign of brainwashing propaganda, that all this money on this very small territory, we're talking LA to San Diego, and all this money, just propaganda beating them down. And like, we hear all this control opposition, whether it's Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Why would Hamas be any different? You just fucking occasionally send a rocket into one place and then you get everybody all angry. To me, it's all the same. I could be wrong. I mean, I've been wrong on this podcast today, so I might be wrong again. But my point is, it's just like, it is very deep. And I think this Mossad contact is huge, and I think it drives everything.
But Trump has no connection with that stuff, right?
Nope. Hey, dude, I say this, if Trump's part of it, throw him on the guillotine too.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, that gets excluded. Like when he attacks Ilhan Omar, it's because she's anti-Semitic and she doesn't like Israel. It's like, wait, what country are you president of?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's just like, when you ban these certain things, you start going, okay, why are these banned? I mean, like, Holocaust denial videos are, I mean, regardless of what you think, it's not my thing, but it's to ban them. You're sending people to go watch those videos. Why is it that particular video banned? It makes
there you go. That's the other side of all of this censorship stuff, is that, as I say, it puts the red flashing light on material that you're censoring. So that can be used strategically too. Censor people that you want people to go down a certain rabbit hole or whatever, right?
I think that's a big part of Alex Jones, man. They banned Alex Jones on YouTube. Boom, everybody ran to check out his videos.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, this whole, it is, what James brought up earlier, and I think it's an interesting debate, like this idea of like, okay, if it's a private company, YouTube, Google, all this stuff, should they have the right to decide what is on their platform or not? But yet they've gotten so big and they've become such monopolies that it's like, if they can control what's being said, then they basically are controlling what's being said, because that everything that is being said is on those platforms. there is no alternatives. So it's it is to me, I can see the argument that, okay, as a private company, like, you might not want porn on your your, but I can see the other argument, right? The argument of, like, let's legalize, like Portugal did, let's legalize all drugs. Guess what? People who don't want to do drugs are still not going to do drugs.
Right.
We criminalize. So it's like, if you, like, people have access to porn regardless if it's on those sites or not. Like,
right, but you see the difference in the argument and the way that we're conflating things. It would be like saying, okay, you legalize all drugs, but now, whatever supermarket has to sell drugs. But what if they don't want to sell drugs, right? They should have the right to say, no, we're not going to sell drugs. Yeah, drugs are legal and you can go get them, but you're not going to get them from our store. And is the government going to come in and say, no, you have to sell drugs now? No, of course
not. But wouldn't you be making the argument that, for what YouTube and Google is doing, right? Saying that, like, well, I don't have to put this stuff out here just because, like, okay, if you want to watch these videos, go watch them somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I'm saying fundamentally this is a victim complex that we're in right now. But everybody's on YouTube, so, we have to be on YouTube. No, that's the victim mentality of all of this, and that's where they want us, ultimately. They want us to think we are ultimately completely powerless. We are at the total mercy of whatever government is going to come in and make whatever laws they're going to make, or whatever platform comes along. No, that is the entire point of the internet. It is a decentralized network that we can put up what we want. We can share things peer-to-peer. There's no way to stop that unless you shut down the entire internet, which is impossible because it's just a series of servers spread all over the world. There's no way to shut it down except for EMP attack that shuts down all electricity in the world or something. So at this point, no, we are accepting the victim mentality. We're taking it upon ourselves to be, oh, we're just poor and helpless and nothing we can do except wait for daddy government to come in and tell these platforms what to do. That's garbage. And when we start accepting that, we've already lost the game.
I mean, we've seen Netflix is suffering, YouTube suffering, Facebook suffering. So I guess along the lines of what you're talking about, you have seen action going, F you, I don't want to be on this platform anymore. And you see people leaving those platforms to other platforms.
People are leaving Facebook like crazy. I know so many people.
I wish people would go to BitChute more. I wish you would check it out, man.
I left Twitter a year ago. At the time, I had 38,000 followers or whatever, and I left it. I don't want anything to do with it. Goodbye. And honestly, my life is better. And I don't need that platform. I don't need it. And it's the same thing with YouTube. I'm kind of waiting for them to kick me off. But at some point, if they don't kick me off, that's it. I'm gone. And anyone who isn't willing to follow me to another platform isn't part of my audience. They don't care. And okay.
Yeah, I agree with that completely, dude. I agree with that completely.
If I leave Twitter, what am I going to do when I'm in the bathroom? Like, I'm so, all that free time of just scrolling through, it is crazy. We have, like, literally become cyborgs where just, like, we're so, like, this idea, like, I talk to people about how, I'm like, we've literally accepted the fact that we'd rather be in a digital reality than an actual reality. Because, and they're like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, because you go anywhere, right? You go to a restaurant, you go to a bar, you go to any social gathering, and people would rather be staring at this digital screen with lights and all this stuff than actually experience the people around them. And I'm like, you're basically saying I'd rather be in this. Like, you might as well just shut our bodies down, download, put some helmet on that keeps us in some virtual reality, and then just pump,
guilty as charged. I'm part of humanity. I'm doing it too. I've got the fondle slab, and there are times when I sit there and I'm thinking, I'm just scrolling and doing mindless things, and then I'm like, oh, my children are here. Maybe I should be playing with my children rather than existing in this virtual reality. It's getting into our heads.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a real dilemma. I see it all the time. You're home, you're tired, you work all day, and then it's like, oh, let me just go on my phone, and then it's like, next thing you know, it's hours later. I'm like, I could have been doing this. I could have been doing that. I could have been. And then it's like, what? And then when it's all said and done, it's like, what did I gain from it? Like, well, I didn't learn anything.
Nothing.
I mean, how many hours of your life have you spent on social media? And you're just like, I've learned nothing. I've gained nothing. I haven't sustained any of this information, and most of it's useless information anyways.
Yeah. My Instagram feed is all ass. It's just ridiculous. It's just all. I'm such a monkey. I'm like a monkey. I'm a knuckle dragger. I'm like, what? I'm on the plane. I'm next to children. I'm just like, what has happened to my Instagram? Because I'm a monkey, dude, and it's a giant waste of time.
And let's bring in the other side of this. This has been weaponized against us. There's a reason why this technology is so addictive. It's because they have literally set out to make it as addictive as possible. We have this from all the insiders and founders of all these different media platforms, Sean Parker and many others who designed the very things that are enslaving us, who said, yeah, we set out to make it as addictive as possible. I don't use it. I don't let my children within 100 feet of these devices. Why? Because it is designed to get us into the matrix. And the real long-term part of this is it is literally designed to get us in the matrix. Hey, Elon Musk, brain machine interface, cool. Yay, I'm going to get the brain chip as soon as it comes out. That is where this is heading.
What's hilarious about Elon Musk is that he talks about his fear of AI, but yet he's helping bring it.
Yeah, the solution is to get ourselves embedded with AI.
Yeah, it's like it makes zero sense. It's like in like if you're watching videos about, you know, just like well-known celebrities and people talking about their fear of AI, Musk is in those videos, and then all of a sudden it's like he's bringing technology to the public that's creating the issue that he's concerned about. It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I mean, he is a little bit crazy. So I mean, it's
he's just there's pictures of him with that Maxwell chick that just popped up, and it's just like we always want to believe.
For people in the audience who don't know, that's Ghislaine Maxwell Epstein's right-hand woman. Yeah,
Hunter. It's
I think this pedophilia thing. The reason why I'm glad it's getting a lot of attention, because I don't think people realize how big of an issue it is. Like, literally, it seems like everybody in a high position anywhere, if it's a corporation, if it's politics, if it's the royal family, everybody's involved. There's links to everybody. Like, it almost seems like the world is run by pedophiles. Like, it truly seems like that.
Because it might be.
Because it might be, yeah. And
Jesuits, the Vatican, I mean, like how many institutions that we know have a firm grip on power have been associated with pedophile scandals? The royal family, tons of them, they're convicted in courts. A guy tried to arrest them. They threw him in a mental hospital and threw him on drugs. The Vatican, Hollywood, Washington, D.C., over and over and over again, man. Whether it's used for power, or maybe that's why they made having, as disgusting as I find it is, having sex with someone who isn't mentally capable of understanding what you're doing and being able to co-sign on that. At one point, people were marrying 13-year-olds, and I don't think that's right. Maybe they made that illegal so they could control it, like the way they made drugs illegal so they could make all this money off it on the black market. I don't know, but it is everywhere. It is everywhere. And to sit there and go, and then this isn't you at all, but for people to go, oh, the world's ran by pedophiles, I think it's a very common theme, man. I would take that over, oh, the Jews run everything, blah, blah, blah. I take it way over that. I mean, you're looking at like black nobility, the Vatican, all Jesuits that are just balls deep into this stuff, no pun intended, but it's just like it just really is.
But this is the point, that it is a form of political control. I mean, it gives you the blackmail. I mean, this is how a kakistocracy functions, and this is why pedophiles, psychopaths, criminals are attracted to positions of power, because it lets them get away with what they're doing. But then there's always the level above them that's using that as strings to control what they're doing. You can get away with it as long as you do this, as long as you go that way. So it's an entire system of control. And then we at the bottom think, oh, you know, if we just vote for this person or vote for that person, everything's going to change. It's nonsense. But this is the 17 layers of psychological conditioning we're under, where we don't even see the system that's functioning at the top. But we get to feel, no, the government is us, and it represents us.
Do you think that anything changes, guys? Do you think this Epstein trial leads to anything big? Do you think that whoever, we either abandon these tech companies? Because, I mean, people are leaving Facebook in droves. I mean, do you think anything from this moment of recording let's say a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years, is any different than it was?
It's oh,
The short term is a lot harder than the long term. Because 100 years from now, I can tell you it's one of two ways. Either we have freed ourselves from the parasites that are controlling the system and have done so for millennia, through a conscious revolution, a revolution of the mind between the ears. The most important territory in the universe is what's going on between your ears right now. It's why they spend so much time propagandizing us and trying to control what we see and hear and think and do and say. That is the ultimate battle. Either we win that battle, and 100 years from now we're using technology, sure, to explore the universe and to do what humanity is destined to do, or game over. It's a bunch of cyborg cattle on the human plantation or the transhuman plantation. And I, if I didn't think there was a possibility of that conscious revolution, I wouldn't be here doing this. I'd be off doing something fun and just distracting myself till I die. But I think there is a point.
I can't agree more.
There's a point in doing this. And the point is we can reach that goal. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it's 100% certain. I wouldn't want to put odds on it, to be honest, because it might not be pretty. But at any rate, there's some chance that there is some spark of humanity left within us that will survive on the other side of this.
So you say there's a chance.
That's it. Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance.
One thing I see that gives me hope, and I'm big into cigars and bourbon and my dad's made wine and my family makes wine and all these things that are like more important than the things I'm actually referring to. It's the fact that these traditions of like getting together and having a glass of whiskey, making wine, having a cigar, it's all about social gatherings. It's all, hang out, you conversate, you have discussions, your phones are aside, and you're starting to see these things get more popular. You're seeing malls focus more on social gathering things, arcades, all this stuff, kind of reinventing the wheel because obviously people aren't buying stuff at malls anymore. But I think it also has something to do with the fact that no matter how much things change our environment changes, like we haven't changed enough where we can live without being social creatures. We can't ignore the fact that we're social creatures. We can't ignore some of our deep-rooted DNA and tendencies. And I feel like even though things are changing, like it's almost like things are changing. We think like, I refer to Chris Ryan's great book that's coming out in October called Civilized to Death. And, I'm a big fan of Chris Ryan. He's been on the show a while ago. And he talks about like what's progress, right? We think we're progressing, right? We're progressing, right? We have more shit, we have more stuff, we have more technology, things are faster, cars are cooler, and all this stuff. And yet we're more unhappy, we're more depressed, we're more over medicated. So it's like I think we have to reanalyze, rethink what is progression, and are we like what we think progression is it necessarily even a good thing? Like, you look at just over vaccination, all these things that like we think we keep improving, and now we've gotten to the point where it's like, oh crap, I think if we actually go back to the way we were, we'd be better off, we'd be happier, we'd be healthier, we'd be, so it's like we keep trying to reinvent the wheel, we keep trying to fix things, we keep trying to make things better. And I think that we've gotten to the point where just like, no, we can actually learn from our ancestors. We're probably better off if we take a couple of steps backwards. And I think that, American society is a perfect example of it, because we keep thinking that like if we have all these material things, it'll make us happier. And we have all this technology makes us happier. And we're some of the least happy people in the world. We're a lot of people here are happy because they're constantly drinking alcohol, drinking coffee. Like if you need all these substances,
I'm addicted.
Just to like survive, then what does that tell you about our overstressed lifestyle? Like coffee is one of those things that sells like crazy. Energy drinks, all this stuff. What does that tell you about the way we live? Like we're overstressed physically and mentally. Like we need all these things just to make ends meet, just to be like stable and get through the day. Then maybe we need to reanalyze like the way we live. Like, in Portugal, people have a much more laid back lifestyle. People spend much more time with family and friends and community. They don't have the material things we have here. They have way more time off. They, stuff like that. but they're happier and they're, and they're complete content. It's almost like we've been sold this book of lies, and it's a line in the song I wrote, lyrics I wrote a long time ago, this sabotage the American dream, this idea that like, oh, you come to America, you chase financial wealth, and you can have that big car, you can have that big house, you can have that white picket fence, and this is the road to happiness. Just go down this road, and then you go down that road, and you're like, wait, I don't get it. Like, I did all the things that were necessary to be happy, and I'm freaking miserable. Like, and then you see this epidemic of the divorce rate going up. Why? I know I have a lot of friends that are divorced that were in that majority of those people, those parents that were, when the divorce rate was 50%. And like, that's what they tell you. A lot of them tell you it's because I was told that I should get married at this age. I should have kids at this age. I should own a house at this age. I was doing all the things that society and marketing was telling me would bring me happiness. And I did it, and I was unhappy. And so I think we need to reanalyze, like, what is our purpose? What is, and this goes to the greater, I guess the big picture. And I think, but these big picture conversations are important, because I think it's really easy to like talk about what's going on currently, current events, all this stuff. But I think we need to reanalyze, like, what's our purpose? What's really happiness? What brings us happiness? What, what's I guess a more natural state for humans, and I think we're social creatures. I think inherently most of us are good. I think unfortunately we've created a system where if you're a psychopath, then you succeed financially and you can get to those positions of power. Like we own a small business, a construction company. We're never going to be huge. Why? Because I'm a good person, I feel.
Yeah.
and I can't screw somebody just to make a little bit extra money. I can't do something that I feel like is morally wrong just to make a little bit more profit. I can't argue for something during a meeting, just to make us more money, even though I know, like, I'm actually not even making a valid point, but I can pretend I am, because I think that if I win this argument, I can make more money. Like, I can't do those things. I have to be able to look in the mirror. I have to be able to be happy with who I am.
On the flip side, we've got a good business plan for you. I mean, just blackmail the mayor, make sure you get some city construction contracts, move your way up to state level, eventually you're federal, and then you're Epstein level. So there you go. That's the way to make money, right?
It's just that simple.
Well, and that type of stuff, and people, if anybody is involved, like local politics, I mean, there's like we're talking about like big picture corruption, or like, the highest levels of corruption. But like, if you don't believe these conspiracy theories, quotes, conspiracy theories, just go to small government. Like, there's contractors who get, like you said, get contracts because, they're friends with the mayor. There's, there's all that type of people who get positions because of who they know. Like, now you just keep going up the levels, and that stuff doesn't stop happening. It just happens more.
Yeah, that's the strangest part about conspiracy denial. It's like everyone knows all these conspiracies that function in their daily lives, but the richest, most powerful people in the world doing the exact same thing? Never. They're angels.
Yeah. It's like you'll go to work and be like, my boss likes this person again, and they're just but I'm like, oh well, the government's ran by these people working there. No, never happens. Like,
no, I voted for my congressman. He's a good man. Anyway, okay, with huge topics, we've talked about everything. Final thoughts.
You want to go, Ricardo?
I think there's hope. I think there's hope for the reasons I was stating. I think that no matter how much we try to, technology and those in power push us in the direction of one way, I think we have deep-rooted, there's things you can't deny that we are, I think, for the majority, good people. We are social creatures. I mean, we talked about in the past, I think even with you, James, like the history of like the suburbs and trying to make people less social and get people to live in these houses where you don't know your neighbors and you don't share your garden and all this stuff. And I think that there's some pushback now. Now I think you could only try to change society for so long, and then eventually we're like, oh shit, this isn't working. And I think now people are actually taking steps backwards. And so I think it's a step in the right direction. I think that it shows that maybe as much as they try to change what humans are and what makes us human, and that's these social aspects to us and our personalities and how we are good people, I think eventually we're going to realize like, holy shit, like we have to take a step back and we have to reanalyze our lifestyle and the way we live and what truly makes us happy. So I think there is hope. And I think these conversations, like James said, they can't stop the internet. The internet itself exists. And I think James is right. I'm glad you put attention on it. And I think you talked about it in your recent documentary on Silicon Valley. We do have like this victim type thing where just like, what are we going to do if YouTube censors us? It's like, well, F YouTube. Let's start our own website. Let's do other stuff. Like, let's not pretend that we don't have other options, because we do. So I think that's a really important thing to end on. You guys?
I just want to say that I love these conversations. I love these SwapCasts that we do. I think they're important. I love when we bring all the tribes together. And, it's like last night, myself, Eddie Bravo, we did a tinfoil hat in Santa Cruz, and 400 people came and bought tickets to our show. And to me, that's a sign that amazing things are happening. And we're talking anywhere from 19-year-old college girls to a 65, 70-year-old man who says he's going to go to Burning Man for the first time, And it's just like more people are coming to us and more people are open-minded to what we're saying. And I think it's blood in the water. I don't think they can control it all, no matter how hard they try. Like, the internet got away from them. And I love what we're doing. I love these conversations. Sorry if I got a little dirty. I'm just a sailor at heart. But I just want to say that
you are a comedian. So it's. But
I love these conversations. I respect both of you guys so much. And these are so much fun. And anytime I can be a part of it, I'll come running, because I just love hearing both your perspectives, and I love both your work so much. And hey, man, I think when you cut yourself off from Twitter and you cut yourself off from, it's like I block anybody on these social medias that come at me with some poison, and it's amazing how much more healthy my life is. They try to make me feel bad because you're blocking people, you're such a wuss, and it's like, no, I just don't need it. I put out free content because I'm passionate about it, and I don't need you coming crapping on my art, man. So I cut it off, and it's amazing how I don't miss any of it. Don't miss any of the drama, and I enjoy it. And as much as my mom or my girlfriend hate my podcast, I've never been happier. I've never enjoyed it more. And I feel like we as a whole, maybe not, we don't bat 1,000, but we're batting 900. And on these things that we've been telling people about, and it's amazing how many people go, you were telling us this a long time ago, and for that I am blessed. So thank you guys.
Hey, batting 900 is GOAT level, greatest of all time.
That's beyond GOAT, though.
Yeah. So there you go. So I'll take it if that's where we're at. I just want to end just by reiterating that the point is not to absolve ourselves of our own responsibility in all this that's happening. We have a part to play in this, and our part is not just to whine or complain or hope that someone will be elected that will solve all our problems. The point is to take the steps that we know are necessary to detach ourselves from the controlled platforms and to use the internet the way that it can still be used, at least for the time being. We don't have to do the thumbprints and everything yet. So let's continue to use this in the way that we can, while we can, to get real information out there to other people and not just take the victim mentality. So that's the point I want to leave it on. Let's direct people to your websites.
SamTripoli.com, tinfoilhatpod.com, and Sam Tripoli across all social media. And yeah, man, check out dates. Hopefully we're coming to a city near you, and I hope you enjoy it. And again, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah. Okay, I'm James Corbett at CorbettReport.com, and I'll let Ricky wrap it up since it's technically his.
Yeah, that's my fault about that. Yeah, we'll do better next time. The RippleEffectPodcast.com, RV Theory 6 on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, everything else. But yeah, I think this is really important because we're all different backgrounds, different perspectives. And I think we're using the internet for what I was always curious is being able to hear different perspectives. And we're showing this is how you get people together, have a discussion without arguing or picking teams and just, I think people need to hear these type of discussions because I think, like we talked about so many times, people pick a team and there is no more civil debate. There's no more civil people having discussions about stuff. And that's what I love about these discussions is mostly because of that, because people can see like, people can actually come together, talk without arguing, without pointing fingers, without demonizing somebody, and being open to other ideas. And we're all open to challenging ideas, but also having our ideas challenged. And I think that's super important, because if we only talk to people we agree with, you don't learn anything. You learn by talking to people, that have different perspectives. So,
Okay, guys, got to run.
thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Been a pleasure. Until next time, my friends. Take
All right,
care.
take care.
Take care.